Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pockets Full of Soup, episode 10. That's right, we're on a 5, which means something different. Tonight, Marty loves Andrew. Andrew loves Marty.
Oh.
And I'm joined here by my two guests. On my immediate right.
Oh, Andrew Goldfarb.
And to his immediate right.
Marty Sleva.
And you gentlemen, where might these fine human beings know you from? Where might they recognize you from?
IGN.
.com? Was that what we were going to do? Oh, yikes.
It's a call and response.
We work with you, Jared, at the Imagine Games Network.
Whoa! It's a blast from the past.
Wow.
Yeah.
Indeed. We're not actually called that, though, right?
No, it technically stands for nothing now. I mean, it's not IG nothing or something. It just literally doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing. That's a long story that we're not going to tell tonight. But every 5 episodes, we change things up a little bit. Usually I'm going to ask the question, tell me about somebody you're thankful for. But tonight, instead, I'm going to ask the two of you, who are two of the closest friends I know here in California, to spend a little time on a bit of a love-on for one another. Andrew, I want you to talk to me about why you're grateful for Marty. And Marty, I'd like you to tell me why you're thankful for Andrew. And you guys are welcome to look lovingly into one another's eyes and tell each other anything you need to here. But yeah, all seriousness, all joking aside, these two are really good friends, and I thought it'd be fun to have them come in here tonight and talk a little bit about what brought you guys together.
Yeah, this was originally billed as the codependency episode, which I'm glad we didn't go with that name. But yeah, it was weird. So Andrew and I met, I guess, when we both started working at IGN-ish around the same time, back in 2000,
like 2011.
2011. Yep. I was working. I got hired at 1UP, but 1UP got bought by IGN, and so I was working in the office. And then you got hired later that summer.
Yeah, I started. I guess like my first days in the office were either very late July or early August.
So 5 years. You guys have known each other for 5 years.
Yeah, known each other for 5 years, and for the first year and a half or so when I was at 1UP, it was no one was mean, but it was very siloed. Like, we sort of kept to ourselves, did our own thing.
You were creating your own stuff.
We were creating our own stuff, and it was before we all did podcasts together. Okay. It was a time when we were very cordial, but rarely did I spend time outside of work with you or Brian. Granted, you weren't even there yet. Granted, Jared and I were communicating.
Yeah, that's
you
also,
were freelancing, right?
I was freelancing, trying to get Marty to give me a job. Yeah. I believe you do still. I think you promised me several sports game stories I never got to write and pestered you about.
Is this what this whole thing is for?
Actually, this is really
you
about.
don't even have this whole Patreon was a scam.
That's what it's all about. Just to get your listen here, Marty. You owe me a freelance gig, and I'm collecting.
My favorite freelance story with you was when you had to make an edit to a guide, and you said you pulled over the side of the road and got Wi-Fi from a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah,
which I feel that's not in the continuity of a Cracker Barrel.
I remember that I was working on the Witcher 2 guide, and I was really hungry. Also, it wasn't just that I needed the Wi-Fi. So I got
that cornbread?
I got some of that cornbread, and I got that country fried steak, and I sat down and wrote about The Witcher 2 I had a little Alienware M11X gaming laptop, and so I sat there and I had one laptop open writing, one playing, and I had a cornucopia of food spread over the table.
That sounds amazing.
Incredible.
That sounds like something Geralt the Witcher would do.
It does
minus the writing a guide about his own life.
Yes, yeah,
in a Cracker Barrel.
But so this several years ago. But you're there first, Marty. You guys are more working in the same building than co-workers. Do you remember the first time you were aware peripherally of one another's existence?
I do, for sure.
Yeah?
Because you had that stupid frog pin. So the IGN desks were cubicles, and the outside of them was not like corkboard, but like a canvas. Where,
that you were able to pin things to.
And I have absolutely no idea why, but the first time I actively remember, because eventually we talked more and more as you were playing 13.2, in early 2012.
Yeah.
Because I was playing through Final Fantasy 13.2 while you were writing the guide. But before that, the first time I remember talking to Marty is that he had this, it was probably like a college logo or something. It was like a frog.
Yeah, it was like the front visage of a frog.
Yeah.
Where did you get this frog?
I feel like it was at that time. It was before I realized that if you can say no to people giving you things in the video game industry, because if you say yes too many times, all of a sudden you end up like a hoarder, which is sort of what my desk is now. My desk is same, Ellis Island.
Well, you don't really sit at your desk anymore, right?
No, I'm sort of a wanderer. I've started to take up a thing where I put my feet up on my desk.
Yeah, you sit for a while, you brought a chair over that sounded like covered in wine, weirdly. But
Yeah.
there's a chair next to my
I was
desk
not the
that
one who
became,
covered in
like,
wine.
your-
I went on a trip, and when I came back, it was covered in wine.
Now, is it covered in spilled wine, or is
Spilled
there
wine, yeah.
bottles of wine?
If there were
No,
bottles
like
of wine
super
there,
spilled wine.
I would
Yeah.
own squatters' rights to it.
Okay. So anyway, you had this frog. You got the frog from somewhere. Why do you remember the frog?
I remember the frog because as like a new person in California with no friends, I was like finding things to talk to with people and starting inside jokes and finding a way to like have conversations. And I brought up this frog because it was on the end of your desk, and I think you were too polite to tell me you didn't give a shit about it and had no idea what it was. So then I was like, oh, like, nice frog. And like we started trading frog puns, and like every morning I would come in and he would get there super early to like write guides and do whatever you were doing for One Up. And I would get there super early because I was writing news, and I was as an associate editor for news, like I had to be one of the first ones in the office. So like I would get there, and we had this stupid running joke where when I would walk by your desk, I would bring up this frog for absolutely no reason.
And you guys would just make frog puns back and forth?
Make frog puns, yeah.
Yeah, and then that led to like I said, Final Fantasy was I think the first time I actively remember like not really working with you, but like coming over and talking to you about work stuff.
But I
Before we move on to Final Fantasy, do you remember any of the frog puns? What's a good frog pun?
Croaky.
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 I don't know.
If you're the
Old Ribbers.
I'm sure it was literally as bad as me walking by and being like, ribbit, and then he would sympathy laugh, and then that was about the extent of our
I
interaction.
still
ribbit a
sympathy laugh a
pun?
lot. Is
I mean,
or
ribbit could
maybe
probably
he
be
would
a
call
pun.
something ribbiting.
Yeah, that's true.
That sounds right.
That's
That
true.
sounds like that sounds right.
A riveting narrative.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also feel like
8.4.
you only came over because I worked with Jeremy, who we both admired greatly.
Yeah, I mean,
Or all three of us
honestly,
admire
that-
greatly.
and Sam Kennedy.
Yeah.
I mean, like that was a weird thing where like Marty was surrounded by like the people I knew as like games media royalty, even aside from the IGN staff who I was listening to so much at that point. So like even separate from the side of the office that was like Greg and Colin and Damon and so many people that I knew from podcasts, there was this other side that was like so many people I knew from like the beginning of starting to read about games,
And
even
this is
aside
like
from Pear.
EGM people, One Up people.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Back in the day, and I think those are people we were just talking about. EGM issue 100, which is something that Jared, you and I sort of view as a formative reading experience in terms of getting us here today.
Absolutely. So, Final Fantasy 13, or no, I said 13-2?
It is 13-2.
Yeah,
13-2,
13-2.
Yep.
All right, so you're working on 13-2 together, or you're
No,
just both
I was
playing
writing.
the game?
I was writing the
Yeah.
guide, and he was playing it to sort of be the conscience of Ryan Clements, who was reviewing it for IGN.
Ryan Clements was reviewing it, and they sent a 360 and a PS3 copy, and he took the PS3 copy, so I took the 360 copy.
Okay.
And I was playing through, and just again had been there for whatever less than 6 months, and couldn't really afford to go home for the holidays, so I just like poured into that game in December. I spent like well over 100 hours in that game, which
I don't know why you did that.
Were you guys both home over that holiday?
No, I believe that was the last Christmas I went home.
Okay, so you went home that year. So you're both playing 13-2. How did this become a binding force? I mean, I didn't realize Final Fantasy 13 had ever brought anyone together. So I'm really
It
interested.
brought
Sarah
Noel and
and Noel.
Sarah. Not great. See, this is sort of our friendship where we're like on the same wavelength, but just something is off.
Yep.
And it was the order we said it.
Yep.
No, like that's when we became like acquaintances. I don't think we really became friends over it. Like,
no,
we didn't-
I honestly don't know that we were really because like there was a point where I was literally out with you 6 days a week. We moved up to the 4th floor, and you sat directly across from me, and I feel like that's when we actually started being like friends.
Yeah,
So-
it was like the Jack's tattoos and the stranger in a strange land. He
Yes.
walks among us. But
I
he's
was
not one of us.
biling.
Yeah, you were like biling. All right, Jack and biling fuck a bunch of that episode. That wasn't great. Are we allowed to say fuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah,
We're
sure.
allowed to say biling.
No one's allowed to say biling on a podcast. You know she was in episode 2?
Episode 2 of Star Wars.
Yeah, I think she's in Attack of the Clones.
Oh,
Biling.
really?
Yeah.
She played Watto.
Only in episode 2. Ali, Ilani.
Sort of laughing to our next question. So how did this begin? We've talked about meetings are tenuous. When did it go from being, hey, we're at work making frog puns and bad Watto jokes back and forth? Why is Watto such a consistent point of conversation at our workplace?
All roads lead. It's our dark tower.
All roads lead to Watto.
It's the Watto.
I mean, like-
it's the nexus
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
universe. Everything
seriously.
spins on this hinge.
I think the real talk, sad but true answer is booze. I think it was that you were going to a bar every night, and I was starting the habit of going to a bar every night, and then we just kind of our paths met. And it was sort of one of those things where like I left and started walking up like the street outside of IGN towards kind of more of a main drag, and we realized we were heading in the same direction. And I think one night of you being like, I'm going to whatever bar, like we ended up just kind of slowly settling into a routine.
Yeah, and then we realized that, like, obviously we realized we had a lot of same tensions. Geez. A lot of the same
Freudian slips.
interests in terms of video games, RPGs. We both love Earthbound and the 16-bit era.
And
but
even
then,
outside of games, like
so that
talking
was the
about
thing
Lost.
is, I think that was the thing is hanging out outside of work. We realized like, oh, we speak about media in the same way in terms of we devour movies and we devour TV and we view them not as a consumable commodity, but as, you know, art that we want to dissect and we want to go to a bar and drink and talk about last night's Mad Men or Breaking Bad.
Let's talk about that. Let's ask about Andrew and Marty at a bar. What's that like? Walk me through the narrative of a typical, you know, Thursday at 2:00 when you guys go to the bar together.
We're still working at 2:00, Jared. We're not like
it's at least 3:30.
But when you guys head over, what happens? What's the night like?
I mean, like it's like the stupid odd couple thing. Where like I like a table and he likes the bar, so it's like the initial where do we sit thing, which is generally the bar because that's where you're gonna get better service. But we'll sit down and order a drink, and kind of there's a lot of long periods of looking at our phones and not talking, and then there's equal parts a 40-minute dissection of why we are excited about the pilot of Atlanta or why we think that the Assassin's Creed movie might get it right. And then like there's this weird intersection of we'll have a 30-minute conversation because we're excited about a piece of media, and then that'll bleed into this would be a really cool thing to do at work, and this would lead to a really cool like feature we could do or podcast topic or whatever.
And it's also us slowly through that I don't want to say a superficial level. So similar interests in media to me is almost superficial. Discussing that media the same way is where you dig a little deeper. And then through that discussion of media, we started to sort of talk about ourselves and our pasts and like the actual truisms of our life. And I feel like that's when we actually really started to bond, was when through the discussion of media, you started to talk about your time in New York as an extra, and I started talking about the writing I do outside of New York, and that led into us talking about our relationships and our family and everything. And I feel like it was through that initial common interest that we did dig down deeper and realize like there's something real here.
Yep.
Let me ask you something. I got two similar answers there, complementary answers. I want to ask how they're related. Andrew talked about taking something that you enjoyed in entertainment and media and following that down to a path to how to create something out of that discussion of art, how to make your own art out of art, effectively. Mm-hmm. You talked about falling down the path of dissecting, taking that apart, and then gradually leading into discussing what was going on in your lives, who made your background in acting, your background in writing, and where you wanted to go with that. How do those two things connect for you guys?
I mean, it's the funny thing is, like, I don't know that it's a conscious, like, A led to B led to C so much as, like, there was this really weird train accident of coincidences in both career and personal life and several other things that were just as much about good timing as just being a really good, like, we're really good foils for one another while also being really good, like, puzzle pieces that fit together. Like, I feel like I will overthink everything and be very anxious about things, whereas you're like way more chill about things, but that allowed us to have the missing piece of the puzzle for analysis of both of those.
And it also came at a time when, like you talk about back in the day at IGN, when there was a lot of single people. Yeah. And so a lot of people would go out at once. Whereas I feel like when we started to bond, we were like the lone single people. Like I was just getting out of a relationship and sort of that you were my confidant for that. And so it was one of those, like, we have a ton of incredible, amazing friends at work, but a lot of them would go home to a husband or a wife or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that kind of thing. And so we found sort of, I don't know, comfort in that similarity.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, skipping ahead a little bit, it's when I moved to Texas, I was in Texas for 14 months. I think we weirdly, like, for me, I've moved around a ton. I've done whatever 3 cross-country moves in 5 years. And long before that, I moved a lot as a kid. And it's a weird thing where I tended to leave groups of friends behind, not in a crappy, purposeful way, but just I didn't really follow through between transitions of life. Whereas when I went to Texas, like we would still have like 2-hour phone conversations,
Yeah.
and like I don't talk to anyone on the phone other than like someone I'm dating or like my parents. So Marty's a mix of someone I'm dating and my parents.
So
Yikes.
two things there to ask. First, were you still drinking while you talked on the phone?
Yeah, always.
No, because I was walking around. I would talk to you as I wandered around the city.
And I was 2 hours later at that point.
You were 2 hours later at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah. So I would be, a lot of times it would be like, I'd work till 6 or 7, and then I'd just go wander around the city and we'd talk, and then afterwards I'd go to a bar.
So just phone to the ear, walking around talking?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was weird too
A
because
lot of
like,
times it would be, also my phone was getting old at that point, and it would just be like, well, we can talk until my phone dies.
Yep.
Why'd you choose to do it that way, Marty? Why
Oh,
walking around?
that's how I talk to people on the phone. I don't like being stationary talking to people on the phone. I use it as a time to wander around. It's like partial exercise, partial I'm doing something. I don't like the fact of just sitting in one place and talking for an hour and a half. I like one of my great joys in life. One of the reasons am willing to pay the exorbitant rent we all have to pay in the Bay Area is because it allows me to wander these neighborhoods that I cherish on a daily basis. And so being able to pair that with talking on the phone is nice.
So you were walking and talking. You were sipping and sipping and talking.
I was
Sipping and dipping?
sipping and dipping. Yeah, sipping and talking. Yeah, from either a bar in Texas or my apartment in Texas. Yeah.
Of all the great bar couples or restaurant couples in literature and media, who's your favorite? You guys are a bar restaurant.
Rick and
couple.
Elsa.
Rick and Elsa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that's
Yeah.
a great one.
Casablanca, kids.
That's right. Rick and Elsa.
Man, specifically bar couples is hard.
Restaurants are okay too. Bars or restaurants. While you're thinking about it, Marty, which one of you guys is Rick and which one's Elsa? Well, while Andrew's thinking about his couple, which one of you guys is
Which
Rick?
of us is going to go away with someone who the Nazis want to kill but could potentially end World War II?
Yeah. Which one of you goes with Victor Laszlo, and which one has to go off?
Which
with
one
the French
has a
guy?
Victor Laszlo?
Yeah. Which one's gonna be? Who's Rick? Who's Elsa?
Well, Andrew left me and then came back, so he would be Ilsa.
Okay, he's
Yeah,
Elsa. All
that's
right.
fair.
Rick.
You're more of a Rick.
Did you have a moment where you stood in the fog just before he left and encouraged him to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really?
I mean, sort of.
Did
Yeah,
Marty
I mean,
like-
no,
like,
honestly, we did, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Like-
it was a super tough decision for you to be like, hey, I have this dream job, but then I have this other opportunity that also seems like a dream
Yeah,
job.
and those like last 6 months while I wrestled with what am I going to do next, or am I fine where I am?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting too because like I transitioned into a very different period of my life while I was gone, where I like you sort of became my man. Like I know a lot of people in Texas. Like it's good that we still have a connection, and also both of us were going through weird relationship stuff at the time that kind of perfectly coincided. And it was this weird, like when I started flirting with the idea of coming back to IGN, that like you understood more than I think anyone else the full 360-degree angle I was coming from
Yeah.
of like what does this mean, pros and cons.
And I feel like both of us are very realistic in terms of we give the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Like we know nothing's perfect, but we also know things can get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also for me, you were I always sort of had this divide between work friends and non-work friends, and I feel like you were the first one to like bridge that. In terms of Andrew has become very close friends with a lot of people I've introduced him to that aren't in the games industry, that he knows
Yep.
through me, but knows beyond me because you're able to hang out with them long after I'm gone,
Yep.
as in long after I'm dead.
I'm very proud. None of the three of us said beyond.
Beyond.
And there again.
I'm still so torn on a restaurant or bar couple.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. Wondering about
I mean,
that
isn't
couple.
there probably something? Just say something from Persona or Earthbound or Spelunky.
Well, I don't want you to. It's okay to not have an answer if I'm putting you on the spot. I mean,
I mean, like on the spot, I'm sure I'll think of one later. I really do compare us to the Odd Couple a lot. Like weirdly, in that like I think I am a little more type A.
Oh, yeah,
like
sure.
I do think I tend to be much more anxious about stuff, and where I think that benefits you is that I will think of something from a weird angle that you haven't. But also where it benefits me is that you'll just be like, just relax and just do it, like and stop overthinking it.
So Andrew, you went away for a while, and you guys still maintain communication, and then you chose to come back. What was different when you came back?
I mean, I feel like we became closer when you were gone. And
Yeah.
you would also, granted, he was gone. It wasn't like we didn't like it was a soldier shipped off the war. Like you were still in the games industry, which is primarily based in San Francisco, and so you were here once every other month.
I mean,
at least
like, yeah,
once
so
a month.
probably more than that, honestly. Yeah, because I was working with a company who worked closely with a publisher located in the Bay Area, so I was coming virtually at least once a month for that, and then also just coming to hang out, and then also was dating someone who still lived here. So it's like I was here a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned earlier that this was during a period of time that interesting things were going on in your relationship, or important things in both your relationships. What's the importance of having a good friend in the middle of a developing relationship? How does that work for you guys?
I
What do
mean,
you meant to each other?
I think it's twofold. I think it's one is the a person who realizes when they need to be a sponge, like when they need to just be there and soak everything in that the person is venting about. But then two, also know when to harden and slap you around and say, all right, you need to grow the fuck up, or you need to do this, or this isn't going to happen. You're living a fantasy right now. So I think it's someone who realizes like when to be the nurturing parent and when to be the stern parent.
And
Yeah,
parent, that's
I mean, that's a good way of putting it. I think it's also, it was a shared experience thing to some extent. Like it was I can talk to 20 other people about whatever's happening, but talk to someone who literally was going through a breakup or going through patching things up in a way that were related to what I was going through was super helpful because it was more than I had a bunch of people I could call who would listen, but I don't think I had a lot of people I could call who would understand, if that makes sense. And I think like we were on the same page about a lot of stuff.
No, I don't interject with my own stories very much in the middle of these, but this reminds me of something when I was growing up. I knew two teenage girls in my senior class in high school
Named Martina and Andrea.
whose fathers died within a day of each other. Two friends of mine. And one of the weirdest moments in my life is going over to one of those friends' house the evening that we'd found out about the death. And we were going to go over to our other friend's house after that. And we're there with her. And suddenly the room gets really, really quiet. You know how it is during a funeral, or during when somebody's died, even before that buzz. And the room just gets silent. And everybody turned around. And the other girl was standing in the doorway, whose father had just died. And there were two people looking across a room at each other, and it was like a scene out of some kind of great, beautiful fiction, where two human beings, for the first time in my entire life, I saw that absolutely understood, completely and profoundly, what the other one was feeling. And I've been grateful for that moment ever since. It taught me, I think, a lot about assumption.
Yeah.
It was an extraordinary moment. So you two were both going through rough patches. Breakups, patch-ups, breakups, patch-ups.
You can hear all about that, one side of that, on Pockets Full of Soup episode XX.
Yeah, you're gonna hear about that a little later. Yeah, that's gonna air a little later on. So keep listening. You're gonna hear some of that story.
I'm gonna tell Andrew's story. He's gonna tell my story. A lot of details gonna be wrong.
I get it really confused with season 1 of Mr. Robot. I'm like, I think there was like a lot of really weird like hacking stuff.
Killed someone on a roof.
Yeah.
But at the risk of that, all that long story was leading to a question. At the risk of any of us sounding too pretentious, what is it, Andrew, that Marty understands about you that nobody else does, and vice versa? What is it that you intrinsically perceive about your friend that long experience and the intimacy of sharing a closeness have brought out that you understand about this person?
Man, that's a heavy question. I think your feels like wedding vows or like
Shit, Jared's a pastor. What are you doing? Are you catfish marriage?
No, you have to sign a paper. It doesn't count. So
You have our signatures.
I do have your signatures. I can make it happen.
I saw all those signed
We
photos.
had to sign waivers before. That's all those signed photos. Jared bought so many IGN loot crates in order to get one of each of us.
I mean, I think you are grounded in a way that you give me a lot of perspective on what I'm going through, and it's this weird thing where like you can't, like, the amount of time, like I guess it has been 5 years, which is crazy, but the amount of time I've known you and the amount of things either you picked up sort of by osmosis when we didn't know each other that well versus once we've become close and I kind of tell you everything, like I feel like that extended history kind of informs the way you interpret everything I say, and it's sort of like having a sounding board that is myself. I think you have a really good way of cutting to the chase and getting to the conclusion I kind of would have come to anyway, but you're someone who can explain it in a really rational, quick, easy way. And that's super helpful. But also, I just think you're you're really good at listening. Like, I'm an insane person who can't have a moment of silence without filling it. But I think you're really good at, I can ramble for 10 minutes and you're actually listening and absorbing and thoughtful when you respond. Where at the same time, you can be goofy and I can be in a bar crying, telling you stuff going on in my life. And then you can have me laughing and bounce me back and put things in perspective. I think that's like it's an important thing to have both parts of that, to have someone who understands what I'm going through and where I'm coming from, but also who can so easily just be like a really good place to, that I'd like. And you're also reliable, right? Like, aside from seeing you at work every day, I know that like we sort of both have these alarm bells, right? We have these like little like break glass in case of emergency things.
Literally about
like,
to say that, yeah.
Yeah, like there are certain things that can happen in either one of our lives where it's like, I literally don't care where I am. Like, I will drop anything to come if you say this series of words, if you're like blank finally happened or whatever.
Yeah. It's like the Manchurian Candidate card.
Just read it and it activates
Yeah,
it right
yeah,
there.
yeah. We'll kill someone in political office. No, honestly, that's I echo everything you said. I feel like we're on the exact same frequency of a wavelength, slightly parallel to each other. So I feel like our differences are represented there, which we are different. But I mean, you said, you hit the nail on the head. Like, 1,000 times a day, a thing will happen, and I'll look at you, and before you're turning your head the exact same moment, because we both just have the exact same either dumb thought, either terrifying realization, either moment of inspiration or emotional resonance to something. And I think it comes across a lot on the podcasts and videos we do, but it's also just like, it is a thing. Like, not like, I have siblings. Like, I have a brother who's an incredible person who taught me a lot growing up, but I never like had that with him. Where it does, like, it legitimately feels like I spent my entire life with you, as opposed to 5 years with you, close friends for 2 or 3 or so.
So your feelings are fraternal. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I've met people you literally do know from when you were young and people who have been there with you for a lot longer. And it's funny how it sort of extends. Like, I see a lot of you in those people, both in the ones who I see all the time who live in San Francisco, and then even when you've had visiting friends from like your childhood or from college or whatever. Like, it's so funny seeing like a piece of you that I recognize immediately in those people.
Yeah, you're one of you're the person I'm closest to in life who became friends with me when I was the person I am today. A lot of people I'm really close to sort of met me at a different. You met me at a complicated time in my life. Just at a different moment where I was a different person, whether it was elementary school or high school or college or when I had just moved out to San Francisco. But you sort of got me when we became friends when I was ostensibly the person I am now, which I think is sort of important because you got, I don't know, the first adult version of me, which I don't know if I'm an adult, but
But closer.
yeah, close-ish.
Yep.
Andrew, what drives you crazy about Marty?
I wish you would get new glasses.
It's really bad.
I think you sort of, not like, procrastinate's the wrong word, because like for work you're incredible and reliable and I can depend on you. I think you put yourself second, which is, as your friend, like, great for me and bad for you. Like, I think you're selfless, like very much to a fault, where occasionally your selflessness actually hurts the person you're trying to help because you've hindered yourself. And like your glasses and your phone and little things that we make fun of you about, but just like
Success, yo.
What's wrong with his
Not
glasses?
success. Success.
the enamel has long since peeled off of them,
My
so they
glasses
look
are like
dirty.
part of the like podcast cinematic universe. I've gotten chastised for this here. I've gotten chastised on PS I Love You and on the Comedy Button and on every IGN podcast ever.
They're
I was
awful.
on Fresh Air. And I got
Wow.
chastised. Yeah, I was on WTF with Mark Maron, and he made fun of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
During the State of the Union,
During the State
Obama
of the
brought it up.
Biden came out and slapped him out of
That
my.
was really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man!
During
If Biden
each of
came
the
out and
presidential
slapped me across
debates.
the face, I'd be so excited.
Oh my
That'd
God.
be
Yeah,
great.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
I love
hang
Joe
it up,
Biden.
hang it up there. He's an incredible man.
Yeah, he's neat. All right. So
Why are you thankful for Joe Biden, Jared?
I would love that to be one of the every 5 episodes.
what's that? Just why I'm thankful for Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah,
Maybe we should do that. What do you
that's
think?
great, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. About half the
Brought to you
audience-
by Amtrak.
the official mode of transport for I don't know who.
For Joe Biden.
Marty
loves
what-
trains.
I love trains. Trains
Yeah,
are great.
Same.
You ever put a little train under your Christmas tree? Little electric train?
Yeah, we see that. As I got older, like high school, and then when I went to college, my dad got super into miniatures. And so we started building sort of not around the Christmas tree, but he started building a Christmas themed sort of village downstairs.
Yeah.
With those, like, you know, how they used to have the not like Yankee Candle, but those stores in the mall that would have like all the little like Dickensian
Yeah,
cities
absolutely.
and stuff.
Yeah,
And I
like
started
Precious
building that.
Moments
Yeah,
type
yeah,
stuff.
totally.
Yeah, yeah.
And he slowly started building that, and so that's always one of those. Like, I like going home and seeing those because I'm a big fan of tangible miniatures.
My dad built one of those too.
Yeah.
What drives you crazy about Andrew, Marty?
He's just a lack of confidence in certain things. Not in work. At work, he's a leader. He's absolutely one of those like people in the room that everyone wants to go to. I just don't think he realizes how great of a human being he is. Which is, I don't know. I told him that 1,000 times, but it'll come.
Tell me about a time the two of you cried together.
I don't know.
Together.
Like, I think that's kind of the weird secret to our friendship is that, like, the kismet of my tragedies have happened exactly alternating with yours. Like, I think it's this insane situation where my low points have coincided with his stable points and vice versa, where, like, we have been able to be each other's rocks just purely by coincidence.
Yeah.
Two of you passing the karma back and forth between you? Is that just
Yeah, are we just like this
Maybe-
awful Sid and Nancy?
Maybe we
thing?
would both be so much. No,
Is that our bar couple?
no, I'm Sid. You're Nancy. So wait, is he standing with a kitchen knife? I feel like what we're getting at here is we would both be so much happier if we just never spoke again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, it's so funny because I feel like we are, like, work-wise, we have gone through similar work shit together that has made us sad or whatever, or someone quitting that affects both of us or whatever it is. But I don't know that we've really cried together as much as been a shoulder to cry on.
That's cool.
I think I've had like many literal tearful moments in like coming straight to you and only you, basically, where like, you know, things that I've literally talked to no one else about. Whereas I also feel like I've been a just kind of voice of reason or saying what you know but need to hear when you're at low
Yeah,
points.
and you do know more about my own life than anyone outside of me. Like, you know about things in my personal life and people I've dated and kind of things like that no one else knows.
That word rash.
That weird rash. It's not
Yeah.
that weird. The doctor says
Yeah.
it's normal for anyone who goes to a beach and bathes in the nude.
Do you find it easier to pull it together for one another when you know, Andrew, if you know Marty needs you, Marty, if you know Andrew needs you, is it easier to pull your own difficulties together for them?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I can definitely just swallow shit and deal with it later
Why do you
when
think
you're
that
going
is?
through something more important.
I think it's sort of the person we are. We would rather, I think both of us would rather please someone else than ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cunnilingus.
Oh,
Who wants to say it? Sorry, Jared.
That's all right. No, it's a good word.
I think that it's a weird it's a weird and I mean relationship. I'll say relationship. It's a weird relationship in that I think both of us have like this weird sense of priority, or at least I feel like I do, where like I am very acutely aware of like, well, there are nights where we'll be at a bar together going back and forth about like my shit, your shit, my shit, your shit, and then there are nights where like your shit is just more important than any of my shit,
or
and
vice
it's-
versa. Yeah.
Like, and I think we both just have that like unspoken, like we know when something is more than a 15-minute gloss over thing, and we know when something is a every night that week revisiting a thing, or a help you out with like taking something off your plate at work because you're dealing with something outside of
but
work.
also at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, it's very much a be sympathetic and then know when to grow the be the backbone the other one needs.
Okay.
When sort of that when the other one can't stand up straight, the other one will sort of slap them into attention and be like, okay, listen, like you've been doing this for long enough. It's time to think of a fucking solution to get over this.
Does it work?
Well, sometimes, yeah. I think we're very
Yeah.
receptive to each other's. I don't know, because we've never. I've had friends who've taken my advice and taken it to heart and then gotten mad.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think either of us have ever done that. I think both of us have been very honest with each other. As much as it's fucking hurt, and we've both probably been pissed at the other one for saying it, I think 5 minutes later, it's like, well, yep, you were right because you were looking out for me.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, I don't think we've fought. I don't think we've had like a, like, I have a lot of friends who I've had like a, not even like a falling out, but just like a, hey, let's cool off for a couple days, or certainly like actual like relationships. I've had that plenty of times where it's like you have a fight and cool down. With you, it's like, I think there have been moments where we've each said something to each other that's like a, hey, like, figure this out, or like, you stop fucking around, do this, or whatever it is.
Well, I'd say
where
like,
for, like,
this is an injury. Like, we need to sever the wound.
Yeah.
Like, or we need to sever the limb.
Yeah.
Like, we need to cut this limb off. And it's like, well, fuck it. You're gonna be real mad at me because I'm about to cut your goddamn leg off. But trust me, in a little bit, you're gonna be like, well, at least the gangrene didn't spread anymore. So thank you for
and
cutting the
it's
leg
like
off.
a pretty immediate flare up and calm down. It's a like, well, what does that mean? And then it's like, oh, well, you're right. Like, it's such a weird. It's a weird thing to talk about, like in an abstract sense. But I do feel like you generally are like my voice of reason.
Jiminy Cricket.
What about knee splitting hilarity? You guys laugh a lot at work. I sit near you. I am genuinely envious over in my little corner listening to the laughter that erupts 10 or 11 times a day between the two of you. You laugh a lot. It's a hallmark of your friendship. What are some of the things that are funniest that have happened to the two of you? Things that have just struck you so funny that you barely knew what to do with it.
I mean, we're fortunate enough to work with some of the legitimate work and be very close friends, all of us, with some of the legitimate funniest people I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
You know, be it Max or Brian or Greg or Zach or Alana, like people who are like genuinely hilarious in a way that I've rarely spent time around one person that funny, let alone been locked in a room for an hour and a half to fucking podcast with those kind of people.
And we have like this weird language, and it's like it's not limited to you and me. I think like it's a whole other topic, but it's like weirdly, I think when we met Alana, that was the fastest someone seemed to click with that. I think, and very much so with Zach and Brian and Mitch and Max as well. Like, it's just like a weird. There's certain people who you just click with on like a weirder, like, not even like a friendship level, but just a weird wavelength of
like a simpatico
mental
type thing.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
it is that, and it is like sort of a rapid, like a fire and forget approach.
Yeah.
To where there are so many dumb fucking goofs, and some of them don't land, and the fact that they don't land becomes funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or it's the fact that someone says something that is so fucking smart.
I mean, it's a weird thing where it's like, it feels like we're on season 3 of a TV show that you kind of needed to have seen seasons 1 and 2 to understand. And it's like, we have all these weird callbacks. Like, we were just hanging out when we were at PAX. We were hanging out with a friend who we knew for years, who we don't really hang out with as often as we used to. And hanging out with us, he kept being like, what? Like, he kept not understanding our just insane person weirdisms that like we've developed.
The Zapotec we speak. Yeah.
It's a strange Esperanto.
Yeah, I mean,
that you
seriously.
communicate with.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I was kind of headed this direction anyway. You've talked a lot about your love of film and media properties, and that's something that's brought you together. If the two of you could coexist or should coexist, what world do you belong in? What fictional universe do you two inhabit together? Where would you be if you guys could coexist in one of these alternate realities you love? Where would you belong?
I mean, nothing post-apocalyptic because we die immediately.
Oh yeah, we die immediately. During the day, we could work in Fourside. And at night,
we were
get real fucked up in Moonside.
Forsythe's kind of boring.
Itoyo.
Just that department store.
First off, why would you die in the apocalypse?
I don't think.
Oh,
any
I
of
mean,
us
I would
is-
die because I went to Big Sur over the weekend, and there were some fires there once, and there's some trees I've never been used to, and I've been fucked up since then.
And you're allergic to
I'm allergic
very
to
much.
everything,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
without access to like medicine. I
And
feel
like the apocalypse is all about like a boy and his dog. That's how you survive, and the dog would kill me.
And just
Yeah.
that'd be the end of that for you.
Yeah.
I like dogs
Okay.
quite a bit.
You like dogs quite a bit. We can never. That's why we can never date because you're gonna eventually want to settle down with a dog, and I'm not gonna be able to have one.
That's a fair point.
But you guys are you're gonna coexist. Where?
I mean, I think the Earthbound thing was something.
The Earthbound thing's smart. I think there are a lot of weird. I mean, it's funny because I feel like removed from our awesome day job, like I relate our weird friendship more to something in the office, like, and ironically more along the lines of Jim and Pam, but like a weird, just like a weird being on the same page mental thing.
You fucking Roy.
Yes.
But but really, Earthbound or the Office? Those are the places your mind goes.
I mean, that's where I go to immediately. I think like to a much lesser extent, like like the weird camaraderie of like World's End, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, like dealing with shit in stride because we know each other so well that like other stuff kind of rolls off our back.
Yeah.
If player characters walk up to you guys, you're both sitting at a bar in Earthbound, side by side, little digitized versions of yourself, and they walk up and they hit the dialogue button. What do you say?
Aw.
What
Oh
pops up?
dang.
Aw, dang.
Yeah. Aw or aw dang.
Oh,
Greets.
dang.
We talk about dogs. Greets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
greets.
Yeah.
Dog. Okay.
Oh yikes. Yike.
That, yeah, yikes.
Single
Just the
yike.
one.
Yeah.
So, yike. That's another one. Okay.
Ask if they want coif.
Yeah.
These are
This is we're
these are lovely.
broken
No,
human beings.
Something
these are the
about
kinds of
boys
things that
and-
people say. You guys
Oh,
just
realist
use the
boys?
term those boys. a
Yeah,
lot.
real nice boys.
You guys say boy a lot.
Where's that come
Yeah,
from?
we call everyone a boy. I don't. That's our thing. Is like the etymology of all of these made up
Yep.
words is murky at best.
Yep.
Okay.
Like we know where some of them came from. Like we know where all dang came from.
Yep.
I don't know where it came from. We know where it started. We don't know like deep down. Where
I
it
don't know
came
why.
from.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I don't
said
know
it.
why you said it. Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's also I recently rewatched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and then saw The Nice Guys this year, and it's a weird Shane Blackism. Like I feel like a lot of the time, because we watch and read a lot, I think it has informed that we're like overwritten. Like I feel like we tend
Yes.
to talk like
Yeah,
characters.
this, like Gilmore Girls or,
Yeah.
or something Sorkin-esque
Yes.
or Shane
Like-
Black written. Yeah,
Like I think that we tend to
and we
rely
literally
on.
on this couch on Christmas we watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Oh yeah, and played banjo.
Uh-huh.
What'd you think of the Nice Guys?
I like The Nice Guys a lot.
Yeah,
What'd you think of the
I
Nice
thought it was
Guys?
incredible. I thought that probably my favorite movie of the year so far.
Yeah.
I really like
I
the
agree with
Nice
that.
Guys as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
We'll have a
I-
Nice Guys cast later.
I think it's weird. Oh my god, I would love that. Tune into my Shane Black podcast. Yeah,
Just him and Predator. We put big glasses on you and just say horrible, obscene jokes.
yeah, that sounds
fan
right.
of that.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of Lethal Weapon, a little bit of Iron Man 3. I think that we have callbacks, and it is sort of this weird snowball where it's a chicken and egg thing of I think our friendship does lean on that a lot, on sort of how we've grown and what we've been through together, but it is also just being kind of similar. And it's funny too because like I'm like a New England kid and you're a Midwestern kid, and for all intents and purposes we should have very different backgrounds.
Yeah, we did. We do have very different backgrounds, actually, like
Well, yeah.
or upbringings, I guess.
Yeah.
But we did. I don't know. We circled around the same media at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we sort of entered this from very different points, but we sort of, when our paths crossed, we were at a very similar wavelength.
Yeah, for the first 4 years I knew him, I thought he was 2 years younger than me, but then it turned out he's the same age as me.
Well, that's okay. So did he, as
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand it.
That
Yeah,
was-
you want to tell the story, Marty?
Yeah, I mean, I at a certain point, your age kind of doesn't matter. Like once,
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about if someone's gonna card me in a door because I'm 21, so I can get into the bar. And I don't know. I thought I was. So this was, I guess, I thought I was 27, and this was what, a year and a half ago, maybe over a year ago.
About a
Yeah.
year ago, yeah.
A year ago. I thought I was 27. We were out with you and our buddy who I've known since college, and you made some passing reference about how I was 27, and he said he's absolutely 29, and you guys got into an argument. It was really weird to hear two people argue about my own age when I was right there.
And then he was like, he kept being like, look at his ID, look at his ID. And then we finally did make you pull out your ID. and it is 1986, and I was
Yeah.
like, what?
So you were in fact 29.
I was
Yeah.
29, yeah.
Yeah.
But you
Celebrated
thought you were 27.
Yes, yes. So
At what point did
I
you
literally
lose
was
touch
never
with this?
28 in my life.
Yeah.
When did you lose touch with this? Have you figured that out?
We went back. Like he immediately texted my ex, who I met when I don't know how old I was. I met in 2009, and so I've known her since 2009. And he was like, "How old is Marty?" And she's like, "I don't know. Like he's like nebulous."
Were
She's
you
like,
just-
somewhere between like 25 and 40?
Were you just trying to like defraud renting a car one day or something maybe? And
I don't know. I think it was legitimately. I do have a thing in my life to where I will just remove resources in my brain from one thing and divert them to something else. I do have like every once in a while I'll pull out a thing and I'm like, I don't know why I remembered the name of every mission in Halo 2, but I forgot my mom's birthday last year. That kind of thing where
Yeah.
it's like,
No,
I feel
that's
like
real.
I need to reallocate sources.
No, we
Yeah.
we have moments like that. You didn't know how old you were. I didn't know people had eyebrows until I was about 30.
All right, let's talk about that one for,
Yeah,
for a hot second.
that's a whole other story. But yeah, I didn't know people had eyebrows.
What do you
Wait,
mean
what
you
do you
didn't
mean-
know
like, what
they
do you
had
mean
them?
that it-
Like,
I
you
mean, I didn't know they had them.
Like, what did you think was
did you
going on
I
know?
thought
there?
eyebrows and eyelashes were the same thing, and I never really noticed they were separate.
You thought they were connected?
No, I thought they were the
Well, you thought
same
the term was
thing.
the same thing.
No, I
Oh.
actually thought they were the same thing.
Wait, you didn't think the brows as in
I knew
above?
these existed, but I thought of them both as one thing in my head, and didn't really notice.
I mean,
they
that's
were
almost
separate.
just like the wires were crossed in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the brains are fucking weird.
Yeah,
Like,
brains
yeah.
are strange.
And yeah.
and
then
also
what-
because in that span, 100,000 times, I when I write down what year I was born, I know I'm 86. I never didn't put 86.
you just
Yeah.
didn't do the math.
I
didn't
just
do the
never
math,
did the
yeah.
mental math in my head of like, well, it's 86 and it's it's 2015, so that's gonna be
And like
29.
you said about 8, like there's a certain point where it's weirdly 7 years, but I have friends now who are exactly 7 years younger than me and exactly 7 years older than me, and it just doesn't matter after certain. Like I feel like once you're 25, like
I mean,
age,
that's
and
the
even
weird
younger.
thing is like
starts-
amongst all of us at work, I'd never think about any of your ages.
Yeah.
And it ranges from like people who are older,
Uh-huh.
like you and Brian and Damon, to people who are younger, like Alana and Callie and and Dornbush. Like we back when I worked at Pete's coffee shop, we fired a dude. His name was Stuart, but we called him Stu Bop, which is funny because he was an old man who lived on this weird boat. And one day he lived on a houseboat, and one day he called in sick because he got like a white squall took him like out at sea, and he couldn't come into work because he was literally out at sea. But the dude was also just like legitimately, he was a fascinating little turtle man, but he was terrible at his job. He just took so long. Like we worked a morning rush, and it was like, dude, you're taking care of one customer while the rest of us are taking care of 40. And there was one day where they eventually let him go, and he tried to like sue Pete's for being ageist, and it was one of those like, we're not ageist, you're just really bad at this job.
Maybe you just wait till he swept out to sea again and
Castaway?
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like
I
chasing
love-
his volleyball.
I love Marty Pete stories. I stayed with you for like 10 days when I moved
Yeah.
back here before I moved into this apartment. And every morning we would walk to work, and on a lot of the days we'd go to Pete's. And I loved the daily, almost subconscious employee review as we walked out, where you would be like, they should pour the iced coffee when you immediately when you order it. Or there's that guy singing the Cranberries that one morning.
yeah.
And you were like, you should never do that during rush
No
hour.
one sings Irish folk music during rush hour at Pete's.
This is really weird.
Yeah. It was, that's weird. Like, I'm generally not a judge. I don't know, maybe I'm a judgmental person. I don't know if I'm a judgmental person, but I was judging real hard there.
Sorry, Andrew. Do you have any weird, like, do you know how old you are or know about eyebrows, anything like that that you started with?
Yes, I mean, and I think that's kind of that funny balance of like I know all of those things and I
Okay.
remember everything, and like it's like a weird. I think in that way we are sort of opposite.
Oh, you will always be like, oh, remember that time X, Y? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I'm sure it was great, but no, I don't remember it.
Turns out Marty actually met me like 3 weeks ago, and I've just made all of this up.
Yeah.
and he just buys it.
It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question for me before we go back around to some
Cool.
reader and community questions.
Mm-hmm.
Going all the way back to the bar. What's the default drink?
At our favorite bar, there is a drink called the Goldfarb, off menu, soon to be on menu.
Is
which
it going to be on menu? They put it on menu?
They're
You
thinking
can't put
about
it on menu because it's literally just a thing.
It's a whiskey soda with lime. But most people order vodka soda, obviously. I'm more of a whiskey guy, so I get whiskey soda with lime a lot.
And that's the Goldfarb.
That's the Goldfarb. I'll do that. Every once in a million years, I'll do something a little bit different. Like very seldomly, I'll do like a I don't know, a Moscow Mule, or I occasionally will do a gin and tonic, but those are so unbelievably rare at this point. It's always some kind of beer or a whiskey soda with
You
lunch.
got your go-to. Okay, so
Yeah, we have go-tos for like a lot of times when we go to bars. It's like long haul. It's like we're rolling up. We know, and also
we've
like
spent like 15-hour days of drinking too.
and also like let's preface this if you don't know who we are. We're also friends with many, like we're very close friends with many bartenders in the city, so it's not like we go to these dark bars where we don't know anyone and just drink in silence. A lot of times it's hanging out with close friends of ours. I work at a bar 2 days a week. It's one of those, it's a communal space. We come out with a lot of our coworkers and friends and we catch up. We also drink more than we should.
I was gonna say, is it more or less sad when the bartender knows you?
I
mean,
think less.
No, I've carnally acknowledged some of that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a vodka soda or Pacifico, but also like we go out to brunch, and so I like mimosas. And if I take someone out on a date or we go to a nice restaurant, I'm a vodka martini guy, dry.
Yeah, I'm occasionally a cocktail guy, generally whiskey based also. It's a funny thing where like we'll have those days where we'll meet up at 11 a.m. for brunch and then go to a bar and then slowly work our way from harder drinks to beers to
And then
some food.
and then all of a sudden people will come out and they'll be fresh and we'll have to rally.
Yep. Yeah, and there's always like those are the funny
And
moments.
all of a sudden,
where,
like Altano comes out and he's like, "Hey, I've been at a farmer's market all day, barp barp," and we're like, "Oh shit, we're 7 in."
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where like there's usually one of us that falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
So like one of us will go home dead, and then the other one will stay out for
So
3
it
more
never
hours.
just occurs you to pull the throttle back, like
Sometimes
Sometimes,
we're
yeah.
smart. Sometimes we'll switch to water for a while.
okay.
It's totally fine. No one has a problem. You have a problem.
Yeah.
Also, if you want bar advice, adapt to your surroundings. Don't go to a dive bar and order something real complicated. If a bar is very
Yes.
crowded, don't order anything that requires more than 10 seconds to make.
Yep. Or if you come in with a group of 5 people, don't all order complicated cocktails.
Yeah.
Like,
Just be good.
Yep.
Tip well.
yep.
Yeah, tip well. That's a good advice for life. in
Bring your
general.
empties to the bar.
Bring your empties to the bar.
Tipping is next to godliness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Someone in one of the Facebook groups talked about asked, "Do you tip your Uber driver?" And a bunch of people said
No.
yes,
No.
which I found staggering because I think the three of us are very good tippers. I've been around all three of us. We're very good tippers. I've never tipped an Uber driver.
The app says not to, or at least it did.
I tip Lyft drivers, which have a tipping
In
option.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tip
Uber
Lyft
does not have
drivers.
a tipping
The
option.
Uber does not have a tip option. I have complicated feelings about this because I have tipped Uber drivers in the past on occasion. Uber drivers and Lyft drivers do not make a lot of money.
Sure.
And I'm learning more and more about that. My wife drove Lyft for a while, and Uber encourages you not to. Lyft encourages you to. So Lyft I do, and I usually just use Lyft.
I mean,
but
I would if it was in an app, I would totally. If someone was nice and
Yeah.
I would totally throw them whatever. 15,
yeah, Lyft
20%.
just puts it in the app. And those
that's so
situations pretty
different.
much always do.
Yeah. I think it's weird when you use an app that specifically discourages tipping and then they ask for like a cash tip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's some things people wrote in. We're gonna go through these. Esteban wants to know, how much do you guys love dogs?
Oh,
So much. I like
so
dogs
much.
a lot.
Our problem with dogs though is I love dogs. Like dogs are the thing I love most that actively will kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's funny because I'm the person who on the walk to work every morning will pass by somebody walking a dog and I'll smile at the dog and not at the person. Or like I will just walk up and start petting a dog without thinking about it. Like there was a time we were walking to get coffee from work and there was a very cute dog leaning out a window. And I just started petting it and standing there. And then Max had to walk up and pull me back and apologize to the driver of the person in the driver's seat. He was like, sorry that this weird man stuck his head in your window to pet this dog.
Where's it come from? Have you always had an affinity?
Yeah, I just
for
love dogs. I mean, I grew up with a dog. We got a dog when I was 2 that died like the week after, a few days after my 21st birthday. So
Holy shit.
Yeah, she
What
was
was her name?
like
What was her name?
a little under 18, like a little under 19, Rascal.
Yeah, I had a dog that lived that long.
But yeah, it was weird because when she died, I literally did not have memories without her. Like my first memories were with that dog. So it was like so weird.
Yeah, 2
and
to
then,
19. That's insane.
Yeah. And then 2 to 21.
Yeah.
And then my mom got a dog after that I go home and see whenever I'm home. It's very cute.
What's that dog's name?
Smidgen.
What's the best dog name? It's the best dog
It
name.
Calhoun.
depends.
What's
It's,
that?
Calhoun.
Calhoun? That's
Calhoun is what I name. It is my default name for every dog in any screenplay I've ever written.
wow.
Always Calhoun.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, the best name is the name that's good for that dog. I don't like when I hear a cute name on a big dog or a weird masculine name on a tiny little dog. I don't know. It's like I think there are moments where someone like tells me the name of their dog, and I'm like, that is perfect. Like Noodles. Noodles is really
Noodles
perfect.
is a really good name. Also, one of the dog names that you can name in Firewatch is Bucket. I found that really
Bucket's
funny.
really cute. Yeah.
I like that Pepper Scoville turned out as well as it did.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause that
Peppers,
dog
yeah.
is definitely a Peppers.
Oh
but
my
the
God, yeah.
pun
I mean,
is
you know what that
cute,
dog
but
originally
also-
was named?
No, it's a
Grandpa
Werewolf.
Grandpa Werewolf.
I
Yeah.
did not know that.
That dog was originally named Grandpa Werewolf.
Also, Anthony Carbone's dog Dagger. It's a really good name for that dog.
for
Very
that particular dog.
Yeah.
Jono asks, my question, if you can thank Andrew on air for pre-ordering my novel. So thank you for pre-ordering Jono's novel.
Jonah wrote a very heartfelt post in the Kind of Funny Facebook group that he kind of has a job as I think it's like as a political speechwriter, and just was kind of in a grind. And when Greg and Nick and Tim and Colin left IGN, was inspired and wrote a novel and is now trying to collect enough pre-orders and has some publisher interest. So I just pre-ordered it because I liked his story, and I respect people who kind of try and follow their dreams.
That's awesome.
So he wants to ask you, what story would you tell via book or film?
What, me personally?
Yeah, if you're gonna tell a story via book or
I'm
film.
like the king of it because I have so many started and unfinished scripts. My good friend Mike, who lives in New York, was kind of my writing partner for a while. And we started and never finished a bunch of little things. We had this really cool like superhero western that I still have an outline for. We started doing a Captain Planet like super grounded serious reboot like as a spec.
That is something I feel like we had like a 6-hour conversation once about
Yeah.
this thing, and we fleshed it out hardcore
'Cause it's
to
really-
the point where we
yeah.
know literally
Yeah.
the final seconds of it.
the gritty Captain Planet
It's
reboot.
so good.
really
Yeah.
good.
It's honestly like that is it's
That is
it's
the thing.
super smart.
We need to take like 2 days off work someday
Yeah.
and like lock us.
Yeah,
like,
and I have
find
such a
someone-
good outline for
Yeah.
it. Like it's such in a couple scenes. Like it's a really good like MCU style. Like yeah. Anyway, there's that one. I got really into
It's really good.
genre stuff. I have like really weird. I got so into like sci-fi and superhero stuff. So I have a bunch of like half-finished stories about like weird like people who are born without the ability to die and how it affects society, or I have a weird thing about almost like a Castaway style thing where like time stops for everyone on the planet except for one dude, and it's like this Groundhog Day Castaway thing where it's like what he does with his time and what he can do that's bad and good. And I don't know, I have like all these like weird unfinished things.
That sounds marvelous.
Yeah.
Everything I write is a romantic comedy, and I have one that's set on Halloween. That's probably my like go-to thing I want made.
You have a really good bar one too.
And then also I have a good bar one. Yeah. Also, my dad wrote a novel about the Vietnam War where it was in the 80s, and at a VA group in Detroit on Halloween, a group who all served together. When they're all going through sort of a session, one brings a hand grenade and pulls the pin on it, and is still holding the firing pin. So he's still holding it. And the whole thing is a series of short stories where he passes the grenade back and forth, and everyone has to tell about the time they met death during the war. But each story is a completely different genre. There's magical realism. There's a old school 40s romance. There's a comedy. There's a tragic war story. And each one is like fucking incredible. And I would love to turn that into a mini series where each episode is directed by someone else, shot by someone else, but all sort of with the same
Like a
framing
forward
advice.
thing or
Yeah.
something.
Oh my
God, that's such a
God,
good
really
idea.
good.
That's
I also really want someone to do a biopic on Rosalind Franklin with the DNA strand, because Watson and Crick get a lot of credit, but Rosalind Franklin is very important.
Shout out to Rosalind Cricklin. Shout out to Rizzoli and
when
Isles.
are you guys gonna make this stuff?
I mean, we should. Like, I'm really bad about taking time for personal stuff. I really want to do more of that.
Maybe this will be our catalyst.
Everybody tweet at me once a day and say, "Hey, write something for yourself."
Hey, they tried to do that with Duck Dynasty. It didn't work for me. So
If you guys disguise, this is from Hermione, I believe. Yeah, Hermione.
Ranger?
How's Ron doing? Spoilers for Harry Potter.
If you guys disguise yourself as an adult by getting on each other's shoulders with a big trench coat, who would be the head?
I mean, I could never pull off being a tall person. You would absolutely be the head, but I could never be the body either.
I mean, is it like one of us would have to be in the other one's shoulders? I'm bigger than
Yeah.
you, but I feel like you're stronger than me.
The perfect balance.
The perfect balance. It would be like a weird.
Like a weird Quasimodo thing.
Yeah.
We take shifts. Do you see that there's a YouTube video of these dudes who want to get into the movies? So they wear a trench coat, and the one hides inside the trench coat, and the other one looks like one dude.
That's such a dumb video.
We
Stop
did
making
that.
people watch that.
I like that video quite a bit.
I don't know this. I'm not.
That's fine.
I'm not
It's really
familiar.
We'll
good.
watch
You
it
don't
right
need to
after
watch
this.
No, let's not do it.
Well, I'll do an interview episode about that video.
You're not going to watch that after this. You're going to go watch Narcos after this while you do Marty's interview.
It's probably true. I mean, I guess, yeah, like, I guess I would be the head. That seems so weird. I don't know. I would feel so weird being tall.
It's not that different.
Will there be a Marty line of cardigans anytime soon?
Mardigans.
This is from Joey.
Max has actually talked about putting certain things on, like printing things on cardigans. So
That'd be
maybe.
cool. You have cooled off on cardigans, though. I feel like your cardigans are your thing, but I feel like you had like a revelatory archaeological expedition in your apartment at one point where you found all these cool like hoodies and old shirts you hadn't seen, and you bought the big three.
Yeah, there's the big three.
Yeah,
Yeah, but winter is coming.
yeah, that's true. Marty went on an expedition and got these 3 wonderful button-down shirts that we call the big 3.
The big 3. I know the big 3.
Yeah, you heard about it today,
I heard
didn't
about the
you?
big 3.
Zach called it that. Do you guys talk about the big 3 behind my back? That's so dumb.
Do either of you speak another language?
I spoke. I took German for 9 years, and I lived in Poland for on and off the better part of a year. And I spoke both of those relatively well at a certain time. I understand both of them decently. Speak both of them poorly.
I took many years of Spanish and so I feel like I understand more of it than I thought. Like, actually, it's funny you brought up Narcos. I've been watching Narcos, which has a lot of Spanish in it that's subtitled, but I find myself able to understand more than I expected. But I definitely can't speak it, and I definitely can't really recall a lot of like gun to my head. If you were like, translate this, I could totally not do it. Even though I took legitimately 7 years of Spanish.
That kind of sounds like a scene in Narcos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all know that guy in Narcos who looks exactly like Brian?
Yeah. Yep.
Colby also wants to know, are there any languages you want to learn?
Japanese.
Yeah, I would love to be fluent in Japanese. Well, you just want to know Japanese so you can finish Persona.
I mean, yeah.
No, I mean, I think all 3 of us would love to be just completely fluent in Japanese.
My Japanese is atrocious.
And honestly,
It's
I
gotten
would,
worse over the years.
if you were like, hey, for $100, you can fluently learn, put your hand in a bag and you'll pull a language out, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to learn literally any language.
Yeah.
I think it'd be
great.
awesome. Yeah. Like my,
Oh man, I got Klingon.
oh, dang.
That could be useful.
Yeah, I went to like my mom is from Poland, speaks fluent Polish. When I went to the wedding in Big Sur, I drove down with 3 friends of mine who are Mexican and speak fluent Spanish, and I was so jealous of the fact that they could just dip in and out of English and Spanish.
If you ever found yourself in a Groundhog Day type situation, what skills would you devote yourself to learning over those countless days?
Japanese.
Okay, Japanese.
Dog.
Dog is a skill?
Just speaking dog.
Oh, just speaking dog?
I mean, I really wish I played a musical instrument.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I don't know, some exercise stuff probably.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever when I play games. I always in Fable I have a halo over my head at the end of the game. In KOTOR I was always the whitest Jedi Knight. I don't think I would ever not white as in. You could. Mace Windu was also a Jedi Knight. He was very good until Palpatine killed him. I feel like I would never do something evil. Like I would never be like, well, I have a redo and no one will remember it, so I'm gonna murder this person.
I think a lot about that Groundhog Day situation. I have this really weird thing where I'm bad at taking a breath and appreciating moment to moment, and so I do a lot of things where when I have a really good day or a really good week or whatever, like our week in Tokyo, honestly, like when there's a particular day that's really good, on shitty days I'll think of that day, and that leads me to like a weird Groundhog Day thing where I'm like, if I could repeat one day over and over. And there's actually one of my favorite lines in Groundhog Day is when Bill Murray's like, man, there was this day where I met this woman and we went to the beach. Why couldn't it have been that day? And it's like that funny thing where I'm like, I have days where I'm like, those are the days I would want to relive over and over
Just
again.
relive them again and again and again. Yeah, I can think of days like that too.
Yep.
Honestly.
Like today, being with us.
Oh, being with you guys is
Oh,
pleasant.
dang.
Yeah.
It's a good experience.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm around you, you're 2 of the most amicable humans I've met in a long life.
Right back at you, Jordan.
Yeah, I
Oh
really
my
like
God,
you.
yes. Very much right back at you.
Got one final question here for you, and then we're going to read a couple of thanks. Sean asks, I have no clever questions, but I just want all three of you to know, how incredible you are. You're in a league of your own. Oh, wait now. I do have a question.
Oh, Shyamalan twist.
Who's your favorite character in A League of Their Own?
If you were cast in a reboot of A League of Their Own, would you play Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, or Gina Davis?
I don't know that either one of us is I'm probably closest to the Madonna character in that movie. You're the Rosie O'Donnell.
I feel like I'm the Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah.
So you're gonna look at Andrew and be like, "You think there are men in this country ain't seen your bosoms?"
Yeah.
Like that's what's gonna happen.
That works. I think there's a weird. When we were talking about the real talk we give each other, I think we have been each other's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's true. In all versions of Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're the captain. Sometimes I'm the captain.
There's
Not Tom.
I saw A League of Their Own in the theater because I'm very old, and there were two people having sexual intercourse nearby, and it was strange.
They were in A League of Their Own.
They were in A League of Their Own. That was happening there.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a weird movie to have sex during.
I had a real life, the Seinfeld episode with Schindler's List, right?
Yeah.
Making out in Schindler's List.
Yeah.
I had a real life moment where I went to see Saving Private Ryan for the first time. And during the Normandy beach landing, two people were having sex a row in front of me.
Why are people having sex in a movie theater?
During the landing. I mean, guy's guts hanging out, guy carrying his own arm up the beach, and two people are just going at it.
I like the weird people who, like the only way I can achieve orgasm is either fictional just slaughtering of soldiers or the phrase "there's no crying in baseball."
It's a very strange moment in my life. A few thanks that people have for folks in their lives. JJ says, thank you to my friend Laz, who was able to make me laugh when I went through the toughest of times. I absolutely butchered that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's a good pal.
Yeah. Thank you to my friend Laz, who was able to make me laugh when I went through the toughest of times. Another thank you here. If I can bring the pages up. I am terrible with phones and just need to print these out.
I think you're great with phones,
No,
although you got a little crack in that screen.
Really not. I do have a crack in the
Maybe
screen.
it has.
The trick is you take screenshots of all of them and then you just flick through them.
I just looked through them. That's what I should be doing. Yeah, I think you're right. Thanks, Marty.
It's a good trick.
After listening to the last episode, it made me realize just how thankful I am for my elder sister, Pooja. She's the most amazing friend I have in my life. Oh, and she has this is Pish, by the way, who has a question. My question to Marty and Andrew, what if suddenly the video game industry goes away? What do you think will happen for you?
I think literally video game industry goes away tomorrow. I think my immediate source of income is a coffee shop or a bar, and then I focus so heavily on my creative writing, which is something that I try to carve time out for now, but doesn't really work out.
Yeah, I mean it's weird, right? The video game industry going away entirely. I feel like I would love to slip into doing this for TV or movies or whatever. Like I don't think, like, I love video games and I play video games, but I also like reporting on things, and like I got into this because I like, even if I'm not telling my own stories, just telling stories, and I get excited by announcements, and I keep up with series and all of that stuff. So I feel like that for TV or movies, but in a perfect world, I would be leaning heavily into creative writing.
Yeah. It means a lot to me that both of you were willing to do this and talk about each other this way. I'm still getting my legs under me with this, and it's nice having kind people I can talk to, experiment with, try new things. Thank you for being.
No, thank you, and also I thank you for making the show. I've listened to every episode. I'm a fan.
Yeah, like seriously, what an incredible way to talk about any of this. Like imagine a weird Beyond where we just talk about how much we like each other for 20 minutes. That wouldn't go over well. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, legitimately, I think you're doing something really special, and I love hearing people I know, especially, talk about their lives and learning more about them. But also, you're just incredible at this, and you genuinely care.
You've taught us things through your show. You've taught us things about people we've known for the better part of a decade.
Yep.
I've learned a lot about you guys tonight that I had no clue about. I didn't know you were Rick and Ilsa. I didn't know that Marty, after you left for Texas, that Marty, there was this French guy came up, and they're like, Major Strasser has been shot.
Yeah.
Round up the usual suspects.
Yeah. He also slipped into other Humphrey Bogart movies. Like, he found the treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Yeah.
He went to that place on O'Farrell all the time and just had the Maltese Falcon.
It's the stuff that dreams are made of.
Yeah.
Man, I want to go home and watch a bunch of movies now.
Yeah.
I've been watching a bunch of really good old movies recently. I watched The Third Man the other night.
Oh my God, I love The Third Man.
Really good. Yep.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
The whole thing
yeah.
about the cuckoo clock. So good. Oh, it's such a good monologue.
Anyway, okay.
You should do a movie show. Can I do an episode where I'm thankful for Alfred Hitchcock?
Maybe we could do
All
that
right.
sometime.
Into it.
All right. Also, I want to thank our Patreon producers, Xavier Sanamon Tremblay and Robert Nieder. Xavier Sanamon Tremblay, Robert Nieder, whose generous support makes this show possible, as do many of you through patreon.com/Jared Petty. And this is the part where I ask, hey, if you want to support the show financially, please do so. That's the place to do it. We have some neat backer rewards there. We're writing this groovy kind of you pick what happens next story about Laser Dracula on there. If you want to follow that, you can do that by being a patron. We have bonus episodes there, some other stuff. It's fun. Nice bunch of people. Pockets Full of Soup Facebook group. You can go over, check those guys out. That group's growing. We're about to hit 1,000. Woohoo!
That group is legitimately awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of nice people. It really is. Subscribe if you would like to on YouTube, or even if you wouldn't like to, press the button anyway because it really helps us. Likewise, reviews on iTunes. Man, they are tremendously useful, helping us get exposure. So yeah, this represents the begging portion of the podcast, and if you would like to do any of those things, I hope you will. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, for writing in. You can write us at mail@pocketsfullofsoup.com. That's mail@pocketsfullofsoup.com. If you want to just tell us somebody you're thankful for example, you can put it there, and if it's a short message, we'll be happy to read it. Also, just correspond or write back. I do eventually get to all of those. And if you haven't heard from me in a while, just write back and say, hey, Jared, I wrote to you. I never heard from you in a while. And I'll be like, oh, crap, I missed that. Sorry about that. Guys, we're going to find you.
Where's your rent for this month?
Huh?
Jared, it's your landlord. It's your cousin Marvin.
Got that sound you've been looking for.
Well, listen to this. Oh, man, we're back to that again. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What are you guys? No, that's great.
Andrew, where can we find you?
I'm Garfep on Twitter. And on IGN in general, I'm on Podcast Beyond. I was on an episode of Anime Club recently. I don't know, just kind of around.
You're on GameScoop today?
I was on GameScoop today.
Yeah,
video
I'm,
GameScoop.
I'm making the tour of podcasts.
Yeah, you are.
I was on PS I Love You XOXO.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good life.
You can find me at McBiggity, McBiggitty. I'm also on Podcast Beyond with Andrew. I'm on Podcast Unlocked, which is our Xbox podcast. Pop around to a lot of things. I was also on PS I Love You recently.
And GameScoop.
Yeah, and GameScoop and the Comedy Button and all that jazz.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
whole
was on
little
Comedy Button
cinematic
recently,
universe.
too.
It's
Wow,
just sort
yeah.
of an incestuous tumbleweed of content.
It's wonderful.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. No,
I'm coming for you, NPR.
Whoa. Car Talk. You're next.
Yeah.
What,
All
are
right.
you going to hit the Ira glass ceiling?
Jared, where can we find you?
You can find me here at pocketsfullofsoup.com and at ye old IGN, where I have a lot of fun doing things. Petty Comma Jared on Twitter, and like I said, patreon.com, Jared Petty, all the rest of that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for being on. And,
pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
we'll see you next time.